Welcome in to the season opener, season 4 of the Target Score podcast. This is Target Score Winnipeg. I'm Joey Slattery. That is Taylor Allen, and we are entering a new era when it comes to CBERS basketball, CEBL basketball. This season is going to be one for the books here in Winnipeg, that's for sure. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Target Score Podcast, at Target Score Pod, at Target Score POD. We've got some expansion coming. You're probably seen the teaser on Instagram already, but the announcement coming out later this week on Friday, you're going to get the announcement of some expanded coverage of Target Score. Stay tuned for that. Exciting year ahead. Taylor, how are you doing? Great to see you again, my friend.
Joey, there was actual dust on my microphone this morning before we started recording. So it's been way too long, my friend. But I mean, that's okay, right? Like, it was a quiet off season for the CBERS, right? Like, nothing really exciting or no changes, right? I didn't miss anything, did I?
You might have missed a thing or two if you haven't been paying attention. That's why we're here, Taylor, because we got to get everybody caught up. And just a reminder, new episodes coming out every Wednesday. So stay tuned. Have those notifications on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Happy to have you along. Let's get this started, Taylor. The inaugural episode of season 4 of the Target Score podcast. That sound effects now.
Upping our production here in season 4.
Yeah. Hey, we got to step it up some way. All right, let's start with first things first, Taylor. Let's start with the CBERS. Before we get to the players, this is a completely new era for the CBERS. This is a new coaching staff. The second coach in franchise history was named over the offseason. It was Mike Rainbow, or it is Mike Rainbow, head coach of the University of Winnipeg. He's had a great record there. He was an assistant with the CBERS through the first 3 years under Mike Taylor, and he's got an all-college group or all U Sports group of assistant coaches, U Sports and CCAA. Before we get into it, Taylor, I did a story from my training camp report brought to you by Holt Dental. Let's take a look at that so you get to know your coaches. It's an entirely new staff under head coach Mike Rainbow, built from the U Sports and CCAA ranks, with every coach making their professional debut on the sidelines.
Wesley played for me, obviously. I know Alex from a couple summers here. Jeremy coached with me for a year. And although Alarion played for every team in the province but ours, I mean, I spent a lot of time in the gym with him doing different things and talking to him about coaching as he got into things at Brandon.
The most familiar face to CBERS fans is Alex Campbell. The former captain was Rainbow's first hire and now takes on added duties as assistant general manager.
He's been absolutely instrumental in terms of connecting with all of these young guys as people and convincing them to come to Winnipeg.
An assistant with the University of Saskatchewan men's team, Campbell says the transition from player to coach at the pro level has been smoother than expected.
I anticipated it was going to be more difficult than it actually is. Than it did whether I'm playing or not playing, trying to, win games with my brothers.
Is it weird seeing Lex as a coach and not a teammate?
Yeah, I'm always scared when I see Lex. If I saw him in a dark alley, I'll run the other way.
Another Canada West name on the bench, Brandon University women's head coach Hilarion Bonhomme, a former Canada West and pro player. He's built a mentor-like relationship with Rainbow despite never playing for him.
We talk about family, our lives, and we just kind of stay connected throughout. And even now, he helps me out tons with my university team, and we just bounce ideas off each other.
He's just always been a really keen student of the game, asking me to, look at how I was cutting film or our scouting reports. An opportunity to have him here and help him along his journey is, again, really important for what we're trying to do for the local basketball community.
Bonhomme led the Bobcats back to the playoffs for the first time in 9 years last season and admits stepping into an assistant role is an adjustment.
There was one funny situation, a play happened, and he blew his whistle, and I was like, keep playing. And I was like, oh, whoa. I'm not the head coach. He didn't clock it, so I was safe.
There are even deeper ties with the other two members of the staff. Stephen Wesley once played for Rainbow at the University of Winnipeg and now coaches alongside him.
When he first came here, I like to tease him that he almost didn't last very long with me when he was on our roster to start with.
He's still bringing that up? Come on, coach.
Now he's a local, and it's amazing to see the stuff that he's doing in the community.
I ended up having a really good career here, and I'm thankful for it. I met my wife out here. I got to go over and play professional basketball out of here, so So yeah, Winnipeg's home for me.
And finally, a national championship winning coach with Keano College in Fort McMurray, Jeremy Walenga, who shares Brandon roots with Rainbow.
My mom still lives in Brandon, and I got a sister that lives here. It does mean a lot to me, and it's going to be very special, but I think anybody that knows me, it's just about winning now from here on out.
You know, him and I talk basketball regularly, so again, goes back to just having a close relationship.
This has been your Holt Dental Training Camp Report. Book your appointment on holtdental.ca or visit Holt Dental at 1176 Taylor Avenue. So yeah, as you see, a very experienced staff when it comes to professional players and university coaches. But this is a scenario, Taylor, where all of the coaches are making their professional debut in the positions that we're in. Again, just last year, Alex Campbell was the captain of the Winnipeg Sea-Bears. He's now come in as assistant coach and assistant general manager. As you heard in the story, was very instrumental in getting a lot of these guys. But I thought it was very unique when it was all confirmed of who the coaches were going to be, that this is basically an all-Canadian coaching staff, all brought up through the ranks of U Sports and CCAA. And I think it might be a little bit of a case study. Wasn't able to confirm across the board throughout the years how many staffs we've seen like this, but normally you get a G League guy or someone with some sort of NBA experience or G League experience that comes in here and grabs a couple of U Sports coaches, along the way. We've seen some U Sports head coaches, but to see an entire staff like this is really interesting to me.
Yeah, and it should come as no surprise that, they're kind of focusing on an all-Canadian staff here. Just listen to what David Asper said when they announced the hiring of Mike Rainbow. He said, "We need some prairie dirt, Canadian shield, and wheatfield soul in our DNA at this time." Very poetic, David.
Very
That was
poetic.
a great line.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that one. But so after him saying that, it was kind of like, okay, it was kind of expected that they'd go down this road. And yeah, lots of these guys, or all these guys, I guess, they haven't been in these specific roles at this level before. But Alex Campbell, that guy was one of the most respected, beloved players in
Mr.
the league.
CEBL.
Totally. And so many guys that have signed with the Sea-Bears this offseason, they credited Alex being a big reason why that they chose to come to Winnipeg. And then Mike Rainbow, he's a guy that paid his dues, right? Day one with the Sea-Bears, he was an assistant coach, learning under Mike Taylor, learning how this league works and whatnot. And he's a guy that's totally turned around the Westman program. Joey, I know you weren't in Winnipeg, before the Mike Rainbow era started with the Westman, but the program was a disaster before he got there, and he's totally, turned them around and made them one of the most respectable programs in Canada sports, if not the youth sports just in general. So yeah, Mike, he's an assistant that over the past few years that former Sea-Bears and current Sea-Bears always spoke very highly of. Even when Teddy left the team and that was a whole debacle, he even still, had love for Mike Rainbow and stuff. So
vocal love too.
Totally. So yeah, I think that goes without saying that, Mike Rainbow's a hiring that these guys were excited about, and it'll be interesting to see what he does here in his first year. And obviously he's had a lot of juggling to do with the Westmen and the Sea-Bears, and he's talked pretty openly about the challenges of that. But yeah, I think it's great to have a local guy coaching the Winnipeg Sea-Bears.
Yeah, totally. And, the help that he's had, Alex Campbell has been, instrumental, as he's mentioned, in getting some of these players. I know Megan Noonan has helped a lot, in their basketball operations side of things. And that was kind of the big question when it was announced. How is he going to balance a very heavy university workload, right? I don't think everybody fully understands if you've not been close to it, it kind of sounds like, okay, so he coaches a university team and then he goes to the pros. Both are really full-time jobs. You're recruiting all the time, especially at this pro level, right? With the CEBL, there are no drafts. There's no long-term contracts. It's year to year, who's available, and trying to put a team together very quickly, and trying to establish a culture and things like this. It is very difficult. But on the same token, while you're here coaching the Sea-Bears, trying to get that happening, you still have to pay attention to your recruiting on the Westman side. The training sessions for his Westman players, like that is still happening throughout the summer. It is a very heavy workload. If you look at that success you've alluded to with the Winnipeg Westmen, he's a well-respected coach for all that he's accomplished as a university coach with the University of Winnipeg. Here's a team that's been to multiple national championship tournaments. a perennial contender for the Canada West title, and a very strong Canada West. That's the other thing too, right? I mean, the Manitoba Bisons, especially in the last 5 years, have been very strong. It's been a great rivalry between Winnipeg and Manitoba on the men's side these last few years. But then you've got, the University of Victoria Vikes, the UBCs of the world. It is a strong conference, in the youth sports realm of things. But what he's done so well is grabbing or making players that were relatively unknown or maybe undervalued and turning them into stars. It's very team driven. I mean, from his University of Winnipeg team, they had, I think, 7 or 8 players averaging double-digit scoring, right? Multiple players, double-digit or close to double-digit rebounding. It's a versatile team. Their bigs can shoot threes. He does a great job at developing these players to fit in his system. He also has a five-year runway with these players, right? A lot of these players come in, they redshirt year one, or they might get limited playing time in year one, and they work their way up. You think of the Sean Morannans. That is a product of Mike Rainbow. Kato Haro, who was drafted for signed the university signing for one of the 2 university signings for the Sea-Bears, developed under Mike Rainbow at the university level. He's great at producing guards, very defense focused. And that was one thing I noticed at training camp, right? The first days of training camp were solely focused on defensive concepts and what they're trying to do and understanding the rules of the CEBL that guys might not be used to. It's a challenge. You have 10 days before your first game by CEBL rule to have your first practice into that first game. And you have guys coming in on the fly. I mean, they only got Simon Hildebrandt and Emmanuel Acott on day 5, halfway through training camp, essentially, before that first game. But the one thing I think is going to be a challenge for Mike Rainbow heading into this one is just the difference between a university player and a pro player. I think that assistant coach experience comes in huge for Rainbow because he's at least been dealing with these players. And as an assistant, I think a lot of times you're more at that personal level with the players, right? You're usually the guy that is taking them aside, explaining things while, the head coach is doing his thing on the sidelines, so on and so forth. So I think he understands a little bit of the personality change from, a teenager to young man to someone in their early 20s to mid 20s to 30s. But I think that is probably the biggest challenge. He's clearly a great basketball mind. He's got great command, but is he going to be able to get the most out of guys that are now playing for their next contract?
And yeah, let's be honest. I mean, a change needed to be made. I mean, Mike Taylor did some good things in his 3 years with the Sea-Bears. I think he really understood the importance of growing the brand and being out there in the community and being open with the media and whatnot. Like, he really, waved the Sea-Bears flag and proudly, and he got it, right? He understood the assignment in that regard. But, when you have 3 years of building a team and coaching a team and no playoff victories to show for it, and some, sometimes the team just looked so disorganized on the court and guys were constantly in and out. I mean, you and I have talked about this, we spent hours talking about this these past few years. It just always felt like, what was the direction of the Sea-Bears under Mike Taylor? Every week, every month, it just felt like they were going in a different way. And there were some good moments, right? Like, let's not forget that year one team. I think no one in the country thought that team was going to be even half decent. And yet they ended up being one of the best teams in the league. And they probably would have, who knows, if they could have went on a run if EJ Anasike didn't get that call from Nigeria at that time around playoffs. So, but then the 2 years after that, year 2, year 3, hosting the championship weekend last year, not doing anything with that. It was just like, okay, it's probably time to shake things up here. So I don't think anyone was surprised to see Mike Taylor go. And not that fans' opinions are always the most level-headed or whatever, but like the entire fan base online, it seemed like they were really hoping for a change. So and they got it, obviously.
Yeah, and not to harp too much on the past, but you and I have talked about this in the past. He was great to deal with the media, smart basketball guy, and I always said, when you talk to Mike Taylor, you learn something a little bit, right? He was always good, at least with the media, kind of breaking down things and being very candid, which, we very much appreciated. There wasn't a lot in terms of what is he thinking, because he would be open to speaking to the media, going into full explanations over controversial decisions. You think the Teddy Allen release, you think the Mason Bercier release, and to your point, he was great from a community standpoint. I think he was the perfect first coach for a new community. Now he's coaching out in Germany. Looks like he's doing well out there. So, all the best to Mike Taylor. But you're right. Change was needed. Fans wanted to see it. They got it. And what I like most about this makeup is these are people that Mike Rainbow has relationships with his staff, right? I love the addition of Alarian Bonham, who you talk about turning around the Westman program. Alarian Bonham, former university player, played at Brandon, came from the U.S., started coaching last year as the head coach of the Brandon University women's team. And this past season, they made the playoffs for the first time in 9 years. He's recruited some incredible talent internationally to come to Brandon, which he'll even admit is not an easy thing to do. Most people wouldn't be able to spot Brandon on a map outside of Manitoba or, at least the prairies. And, he's drawn some pretty good talent here. So, you've got guys that have an array of experience, but the relationships there, they all really respect Mike. Jeremy Walenga, friends with him. They're both from Brandon originally, right? Grew up together through the ranks in basketball, have coached together in the past. Walenga, national champion with the CCAA national champion with Keano University out in Fort McMurray. But I think he's in a good position. You've got that trust built, makes it a lot easier to instill that culture when you have guys that understand the system, and are getting development of their own. These guys are all, Stephen Wesley, another one, assistant with the University of Winnipeg. He's a club coach here in Winnipeg with world-class hoopers, and he's a provincial team coach. So these are all coaches that have experience, but also are hungry to get more and move their careers forward, which takes us to the next subject, the one everybody wants to talk about, the team. The makeup of this team. It's a newish look team, Taylor. Let's start with the one that everybody has been talking about since the moment it was teased, let alone announced. But Teddy Allen coming back to Winnipeg is huge in a lot of ways. It got the excitement back up for this team. I remember on the signing day when he came in, one of the fans actually said that it feels more like that first team with Teddy here. It feels like there's continuity, even though Teddy Allen didn't play in the CEBL last season, right? Like, there's still an affinity for him here. There's still a love for him here. And as you've seen in the G League, this guy can still score. So while this team is totally new with, a new brass at the helm, you've got a lot of new players. You've got one big familiar player, former MVP, who's going to be playing with another former MVP in face of the league eventually. We'll get to that in a second, in Xavier Moon. But Taylor, when you heard the news that Teddy Allen was coming back to Winnipeg, what was your initial reaction?
Well, nothing surprises me, Joey. And I mean, let's not forget that Teddy Allen is far and away the most popular Winnipeg Sea Bear of all time. It doesn't matter how his last tenure ended. People absolutely adored this guy, and he always adored Winnipeg. Even when things didn't end with the team on, the way that he wanted to. Obviously, he still had nothing bad to say about Winnipeg. He still praised Winnipeg, and we did kind of hear some rumblings last season that a reunion could maybe be in the works, or something at least talked about, or whatever.
You asked that question to Mike Taylor, and he said nothing is off the table.
Totally, and again, that's the coach that Teddy, they kind of butted heads, obviously, towards the end of that tenure, right? So when Mike Rainbow got brought in, a guy that Teddy, always spoke highly of and whatnot, and Mike Rainbow said when he got the job, Teddy was, I believe, the first guy that reached out to him to say, hey, man, like, congrats. So when the news broke that Teddy was back, I mean, no, I wasn't surprised, but I mean, it's gotten a lot of people talking. And, at the end of last year, I think a lot of people were pretty low on the Sea Bears. You could kind of feel the momentum or the steam around the team, and just its popularity in the city kind of just fading a tiny bit. I think people were a little frustrated after, another kind of losing season like that. So you signed Teddy, a guy that everyone in the city loves. People that have never even been to a Sea Bears game, they know who Teddy Allen is, right? So
yeah,
this is a guy that you could really market to your fan base, and people are going to come out and buy tickets. And I mean, this is a business at the end of the day, but I mean, basketball wise as well. I mean, let's be honest, like, the team last year, they struggled to score. They were horrendous shooting team. They were dead last in the league in 3-point field goal percentage. And what does Teddy do? He scores, and he's a great 3-point shooter. So from a off the court reasons and on the court reasons, the reunion kind of makes sense. And, Teddy, he's matured, right? He seems kind of like a different guy. Like, since he's been back in town and stuff, he's been, all about business, right? And, he kind of seems like a man on a mission to really kind of deliver another big year here in Winnipeg. And I mean, he's only 20. You and I were talking with us. He was only 24 years old.
Yeah.
The last time he was here. Like, that's that's young. And now he's 27. He's played in more stops over the world. He's been in the G League, putting up big performances down there. So yeah, I think it's a great move to bring him back, honestly. And what happened in the past, I think it's in the past.
And one of the things that I noticed too was when it came to his, those first few practices, the first thing that impressed me was Mike Rainbow's command. I wasn't sure how it would go from running a university practice to a pro practice, but he had everybody's attention. Everybody was locked in. Much higher intensity, it felt like, than some of the practices I remember with Mike Taylor, and very detail oriented. One of the reasons I think that works is because Teddy Allen taking that leadership role, being a positive voice, with the team and bonding on the floor, but keeping things competitive. This is a guy that, Mike Rainbow said is showing leadership in these early days, right? And, if that continues, that is nothing but great for this team. There's also more tools, I think, as well, in terms of, you alluded to, the experience. He's played in the G League, right? He's been traded in the G League. He's put up big numbers. He's played with different coaches. He's played with different players. He has a different understanding of the pro realm. The other thing too is now he is in his prime. He was really good. Not to say that he wasn't when he was here before, but once you get in your late 20s, you're comfortable in your abilities, and that confidence is higher than ever. But I think with Teddy Allen is you get the fan buy-in right away. Players seem to love him. He's got Alex Campbell, who he's played with and is, a close friend, with Teddy Allen in terms of they play together. Now they're coaching together, and it's kind of that bridge between the two, right? As he's coming into that leadership role, you've got Alex Campbell now, who's leading as the assistant with the Winnipeg CEBL and as general manager.
Well, that's the thing, Joey. If Alex Campbell, like you said, he played with Teddy. He saw the good, the bad, and indifferent, right? And if he's on board with this, then how could anyone else not be, right? Because he was there. He was in the locker room. He's been on the court with Teddy. So if he's cool with it and he wants him, then by all means, it makes sense to bring him back, of course.
Well, one of the things he said too is that he's proud of how, like the man that Teddy is, and where he's come from and where he's put himself and the position he's put himself in. And you're right when you say all business. I mean, I asked him the other day, how cool is it to see your last name on the back of jerseys, right? Because I imagine after Chad Posthumous, it's probably the number one, selling jersey for the Seabears. And that's not lost on him, and he appreciates the fan support that he's gotten here. That's really kind of watched him grow up to an extent, right? Kind of saw the lowest of the lows. And now it's, this a bit of a comeback story, at least from a Winnipeg CEBL perspective, for Teddy Allen. But his thing is he wants to win games. And, that is going to be the real test out of the gate. If this team can go on a run to start things and start feeling themselves a little bit, it keeps vibes high, it keeps things well. But, Teddy Allen feels very connected with the community aspect of this. Not to say that he wasn't the first time around, but I think that's the understanding. When you lose that opportunity and, that fanfare slips away, and then you go to the G League where I don't know if you're the man like you are in Winnipeg and in getting that fan support and that, the engagement of the fans. But this is a thing that it seems like he wants to win for the community just as much as he wants to win for himself and his teammates, right? I think he fully understands what it would mean to the city of Winnipeg if a championship was brought to Winnipeg. So I think it was a great addition. Obviously there's going to be a lot of eyes on him, and it's a risk for him too, right? I mean, I think there was a bit of a narrative, like a risk maybe for the CEBL having to bring him back. But if you come back to a team and then the same thing happened again, that would not look good, right? So I think he has a full understanding of the opportunity here, to bygones are bygones, repair anything that's broken and then move forward. And if you win a championship here, if it wasn't already, all will be forgiven. The big question, though, is how is he going to play with Xavier Moon? Before the Teddy Allen
biggest question, number one question, that is the question of the season, Joey.
Yeah,
it's not going to be that simple having both those guys on the court. Obviously, they're two incredibly talented guys who could get a bucket whenever they want to. But you're right, that is the question. How will these two guys complement each other?
Well, and before the Teddy Allen announcement, the biggest news was that Xavier Moon was coming back to the CEBL, not going to Edmonton, where he made his name and won all those MVP trophies that is now designed in his honor with a big X for Xavier. So now Teddy Allen comes in, and and the reason why there's some skepticism, because if you go back to the old era when Justin Wright Foreman came in, and there was the Teddy Justin two ball dominant players, and we were kind of fed it'll work, imagine having two of these guys and they get to share responsibility. I need to see it, is the thing for me, before I can believe it, because one thing Teddy's really good at is creating off the dribble. I think the opportunity here is being able to play in that system and showcase some of that spot up shooting, finding himself in easier positions and maybe retaining some of that energy where he doesn't have to take over games every game. I think there'll be spots. But Xavier Moon is also great off the dribble, right? He's a facilitator as a point guard, but guy can score, right? The guy's played in the NBA. He's played with the Clippers. He has that experience. He plays, one of the top leagues in Russia right now. And that's another thing. When does he get back? This is, I think, unfortunately for fans, it's going to feel a little bit like Simi Shitu last year, where everybody's wondering where he is, and you're waiting for his overseas season to stop. If I recall correctly, I think the Russian league, if his team, Zenit, goes to the finals and it were to go the full series, I think he wouldn't be done until the end of June, like June 20th or something like that. So
they're
it could
in the
be
semifinals right now. They're in the semifinals right now. So that's not impossible.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the travel in Russia is crazy as well. So like there's a lot of breaks between games when in series and things like that. So if it goes the full length, it's going to be a while before he gets here. So I think the hope would be, if he does go all the way and wins his championship out there, that he would come in, hit the ground running for right in the thick of a playoff race, right? Because you'd be in the second half of the season. But that remains to be seen. But I think it's a good problem to have. But I think that might be a first early challenge for Mike Rainbow to understand, how can we get both of these guys to buy into a role that not only allows them to play at their top, their top level, but complements the team as a whole. That is going to be, I think, a little tricky.
Just goes to show how crazy this offseason has been, and just how big of a deal Teddy, coming back to Winnipeg is, that we're now 25 minutes into the podcast. And that's when we start talking about the greatest player in CEBL history signing with the Sea Bears. And what if her signing by Mike Rainbow? My goodness, you're the GM for 10 minutes, and I'm just going to sign the best player that's ever played in the CBL, and the guy that the MVP trophy is designed after, like you said, with the X. But yeah, I mean, you think of the early years of this league. I mean, Xavier Moon, he was the guy, right? I believe 3-time MVP, 2-time champion, just an absolute stud. He's kind of that first success story, really. Guy jumping from the CEBL to the NBA, played 28 games with the Clippers. Just an awesome story. And it's cool that he wants to come back to a league that kind of gave him so much, and really a country that's kind of given his family a lot. I mean, his uncle, I believe, Jamario Moon. Are they cousins?
Yep.
I think it's his uncle.
No,
right? Yeah,
uncle, yeah.
Yeah, Jamario Moon. Everyone remembers his time with the Raptors and his high-flying dunks, and that really put Jamario Moon, who was a journeyman, on the map, right?
And for our younger viewers, go look at YouTube Jamario Moon dunks. I feel like it might have been lost a little bit as time gone on, but at the time, he would have been probably, I don't think it's a stretch to say, like, the best dunker on the Raptors after Vince Carter. Like, probably the closest thing we've had since. Been in some dunk contests. So yeah, he's if you haven't seen it, for the younger viewers out there and you're thinking, who's Jamario Moon, go YouTube him and check out some of the dunk highlights.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it's great that you sign Xavier Moon, and when he gets here, it's going to be, all eyes on him. But yeah, when does he get here? What's the Sea Bears record going to be by the time he gets here in potentially late June, right? And then, okay, well, Teddy's been here since day one. He's building chemistry with these guys. And this first month of the year, let's be honest, it's going to be the Teddy show. The offense is going to go solely through Teddy and whatever. And then when Xavier, finally arrives, I mean, Teddy's role is going to change quite a bit too. And the biggest thing is both these guys do have to buy in and kind of realize that, okay, it's going to be, let's help each other here. Let's make each other's lives easier. You don't have to do everything. I don't have to do everything. And, yeah, but it's going to be complicated because both these guys, they operate, best when the ball is in their hands. And, you see it with Xavier Moon, you see it with Teddy Allen. So is Teddy going to be okay, kind of waiting in the corner while Xavier Moon drives to the basket and kicks out to him or in situations like that. So it's going to be interesting. I'm glad you mentioned the Justin Wright Foreman thing, because that was a very similar similar situation, another high scoring point guard paired with Teddy Allen. And we didn't get a big enough sample size to really kind of say if it's going to work or not. But the games that
That
they
was
did play
really where
together,
the wheels started falling apart, really, right? Like,
oh, for sure. But the games where they did play together, it really wasn't working. And I don't think Justin Wright Foreman, if I'm being honest, has the same attitude that Xavier Moon has. Like, I think Xavier Moon is a guy who has much better body language when he's on the court, a more team player. Sorry to bury Justin Wright Foreman, but that's just the reality of what I noticed during his time in Winnipeg. So I do think this could be different, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, if this is fantasy basketball, then the Sea Bears, yep, they're going to be the 2026 CEBL champions. But this is not fantasy basketball, so it's going to be it's going to be interesting.
I think from that standpoint, though, you're right. I think the attitude that Xavier Moon brings in, he's been there, done that with this league. He doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to come out here and be like, I have to retain my title because my name's on it, right? I think there is a level of experienced professionalism there that can make this work. And if done properly, could be very beneficial for Teddy as well, as he's ready to take that next step. Because, if you've seen his G League, stat lines and highlights, I mean, Teddy's knocking on the door. For you see some of the guys that go through to the G League, I mean, it's just a matter of time, it feels like, before Teddy gets his opportunity. I mean, look at last year, right? I mean, we got an NBA guy coming in Xavier Moon, but the Sea Bears also graduated an NBA guy, friend of the podcast, Trey Scott, gets his 10-day out of Long Island with Brooklyn and was an NBA starter, right? So now these things become more tangible, and I think that changes the attitude a little bit now that the team's been established for a little while. Teddy Allen's been around the league for a little while. He's played with different players, seen different levels of success, and now you're playing with a guy who's been there, done that in every realm, can relate to you more than anybody on this team, because he's also won, MOP and has had his face plastered all over a city and all over a league. So I think it's going to work well. As we take a look at the rest of the team, obviously Emmanuel Acott is going to be a huge asset to this team this year. Biggest thing for Acott is he's played leading up to this season, unlike last year. Last year, he was nursing an injury, didn't get to play much. This year, he won a championship with the Sudbury Five in the other Canadian League, the BSL, over the winter. He only played 13 games, mostly for the playoff run, but high-intensity basketball. He looks a little better coming into camp. As he mentioned, there's no rust anymore, right? Like, he feels more prepared going into this. And then Simon Hildebrandt returns. He didn't play last year because of his NCAA, fulfillment, but it's been 2 seasons since he played with the Sea Bears. In that time, he's played with 2 universities. He's gone to March Madness. First thing you notice when you see him, he's bigger. Like, he's put on some muscle. He's a little more physical. First day of training camp, he had a big scratch down the side of his face. I think a bit of a sign of just that physical part of his game that's grown since fans would have seen him here in Winnipeg, which is really exciting. But and then the other one, I think, from the returning standpoint, Nate Balamu, who will also join the team when his season's done in Portugal. Hopefully that one will be done a little bit sooner. And then obviously Kyler Filowich, another guy who's leaned right out. He's now played 1 full year professionally. And, he's looking a little slimmer than he was before, a little quicker, used to playing that full game a little more. And obviously at a point in his career, now going into year 2, a little more confidence, a chance to step up. But you look at the guys they brought back, pretty important people from a community standpoint, from a work ethic standpoint, and coming back with a lot more experience, which I think bodes well for the Sea Bears moving into 2026.
Totally. And I think a big thing with lots of these guys is that the Sea Bears really need them to take the next step. I mean, Emmanuel Acott has been, one of, if not their best Canadian players in recent years. But I mean, like you said, he's coming off a full offseason of actually playing basketball, not injured and whatnot. And, with 2 stars on this team, these role players are these guys who are kind of the third, fourth option. I mean, this team needs these guys to knock down shots. I mean, Simon's a good shooter, but he needs to be even better with this current lineup. Emmanuel Acott, he shot, I believe, 29% from 3. And no, that's not his bread and butter, but if he can improve his 3-point shooting, that would be huge for this team. I would have, when it comes to building this roster, I think I would have liked to have seen, or I think would have been wise to maybe get some more guys who are just pure shooters, right? I do think that could be potentially a concern again with this team. Although, I mean, Xavier and Teddy are both two of the best 3-point shooters in the league. But I think surrounding those guys with guys that can shoot would have been, a real, would have made this team really hard to guard. So basically what I'm saying is these names that you're rattling off here, these local guys and stuff, they need to be huge on defense, and they got to be able to knock down some shots. And if these guys can do that, these guys take a next step. And I mean, we haven't seen Simon Hillebrand in a while. He's playing high level NCAA basketball, and no, he didn't get to play a ton at Washington State, but I mean, he was playing with some of the best players in the country down there. He was playing against Gonzaga and whatnot, and he had a game against Gonzaga where he had 16 points. So I mean, he's definitely taken a step in his career. But there's going to be higher expectations on these local guys. It's no longer just like, oh, this is a cute story. This local guy, Kyler Filowich, Emmanuel Acott, Simon Hildebrand. It's like, no, these three guys it's not a charity case. They're here for a reason, and they have to, really take a step this year for this team to really make it to the next level.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what, Simon's role ends up being carved out as, right? Because the guy can be a starter, likely comes off the bench at least to start a little bit, but he's got the tools. And I think the biggest difference with Simon was, as a university player playing for the Sea Bears, I don't know if the defensive alertness was as sharp as it needs to be at this level. And that, I think, will be the first kind of telltale sign for the Sea Bears is just, defensively, can he, is he going to be able to not be a liability, essentially, right? Is just if you can go out there, guard different positions and make sure that you're protecting the basket where you can. That's where I think Emmanuel Acott shines. He's a good two-way player. He can guard 1 through 5, very versatile, very much a utility guy for the Winnipeg Sea Bears. But this is a fast team. And if you've seen Mike Rainbow teams before, like the offense starts on defense, right? This is a team that's going to be, active in passing lanes, trying to create turnovers. And from there, move into transition baskets and play a really fast pace, which is why a guy like Mason Krause can really find an opportunity to shine here, with Winnipeg before he goes off to Germany for his first winter pro season. He's the all-time leader in steals for the Bisons, was a top 5 defensive player in U Sports, so in Canada at the university level. So there's a lot of guys here that I think I've brought in for that defensive focus. Fareed Owe, when he was announced, it was Fareed Chatou, another guy who's great defensively, had some big blocks against Winnipeg last year. So they've got some, I think, a good, well-rounded roster. Just to go over it, won't have to go into everybody, but, Jeremiah Tillman's got experience in the CEBL, protect the rim, big body inside. David Walker, guy who was a runner-up as the development player of the year to Simon Hildebrandt for a couple of years. That guy is just a dog, man. Like, he works hard. You see him, he's got the build of a linebacker. He's, not overly tall. He's about guard size, but strong, and just wants to play hard, wants to score, wants to win. I'm really impressed with him at camp so far. Davian Walker, another guy who I think is going to be huge for this team. Very versatile player, very athletic, and seems like a good culture guy overall. And of course, Armani Chaney. I think this is a guy that fans might fall in love with early. This city tends to fall in love with its point guards. Jelani Watson-Gale, Terry Roberts was another one that, everybody loved. And Will Richardson, when he came in, did a great job last year for the Sea Bears coming in mid-season. Armani Chaney will be that guy this year, small guard, quick, great playmaker, watching him in training camp, just his ability to make passes, elude defenders, to create passing lanes. I'm excited to watch him in action. And then Isaiah Osborne, haven't seen him yet. Another guy playing his pro year overseas, but he's a CEBL vet. Had some daggers against Winnipeg when he was playing in Edmonton. So I think Sea Bears fans will be happy to have him on his side. Kevin Cross in there as well, joined late into camp. Don't really have much on him. Only saw him in in that opening scrimmage they had in front of season ticket holders, which was actually a really cool event. Congrats to the Sea Bears for pulling that off, and for the fans that would have enjoyed that, getting to see the first look of the team in the new uniforms. We didn't even touch on the new uniforms.
That's true. That's hard-hitting journalism right there.
Yeah.
With the
My uniform. Gosh, talk about the whole new team real quick. Your thoughts on that? I'll say I like the rebrand. I like that it's more of a classic look, and they kind of got rid of the logo on the top with the city name and the team name and the number. It was very busy. Really like that classic basketball, and enjoying that kind of icy look down the sides, like the little details that they have. Everybody's going to love the Space Jam jersey. That one's going to be really cool on the Space Jam night. I believe it's June 8th. Yeah, but overall, I like that they kept the third teal jersey mostly the same. It just says Winnipeg on the top. That one's been a classic since it came in. Sea-Bears, I believe their whites will be the roads. That's the one that says Winnipeg on it with the black jersey saying Sea-Bears should be their homes. But in this league, it can range from game to game depending on the uniform matchups. But overall, I really like the new jerseys. I still think it keeps the tradition of what they built initially. It's not too far off the scheme of what they've built, but I think it's a nice addition, a nice subtle upgrade.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like these ones a lot more than their previous set. I mean, basketball jerseys, I don't like when the actual team logo is on the chest area or anywhere on the front. It just kind of looks like a minor league basketball league jersey, if I'm being honest. Like the NBA, high level college teams, they just have the team's name or the team city or whatever. I just like that classic kind of retro clean look, and these jerseys are more so that. So, but then on the side of these Sea-Bears jerseys, they got some stuff going on. So they're pretty snazzy as well. They're not just boring. So yeah, I think they did a good job with these. But if there's an import though, Joey, that I would like to talk about, other than Xavier and Teddy, because of course we could talk, devote this whole season probably just talking about those two. But I think Jeremiah Tillman is a guy worth keeping an eye on, and I think he's a guy who fits in really well. I mean, I was talking with him the other week, and he said, I've played with really good players before, and I have no problem doing the dirty work. I have no problem being the guy standing by the rim, cleaning up the garbage and whatever. Like, I don't need to be the focal point whatsoever. And he sounded very excited to be playing with Xavier and Teddy, even though knowing that he's not going to be getting, a bunch of touches down low and stuff. And that's a guy who, when he did play in the league with Hamilton back in the day, he finished top 2 in both seasons that he played in field goal percentage, and he was top 5 in blocks as well. So no, he might not have the athleticism and the shooting that Simi Chateau did, and no, he doesn't have a Canadian passport either. But at the end of the day, I think a guy like Jeremiah Tillman Jr. is a guy that's going to fit in really nicely and kind of be a guy that's going to, again, do the dirty work. And I think a city like Winnipeg, they kind of appreciate those guys who aren't afraid to throw some elbows and, dive for loose balls and, grab those tough rebounds in traffic. And I think Jeremiah Tillman's a guy that could be that.
And he had some big dunks in those scrimmages too. So I think there'll be a few explosive plays. And you've got a guy like Armani Chaining setting it up there. I remember there's some big alley-oops last year with Terry Roberts. So a tough act to follow, but I'm sure Armani Chaining's going to set up some guys for some exciting dunks here this year as well. But great point. But going back to the CEBL now, right? New look Sea-Bears in so many ways. Also a new look CEBL, right? The term being thrown around on social media, CEBL 2.0. So for those who may have missed the news over the offseason, Commissioner Mike Morreale walked away from the position after 8 seasons at the helm. I don't know if he ever slept. That guy was always available for media. He was all over the league watching games, devoted everything to this league. And I think, the league and everybody involved is grateful for that. I know I am. It was always great to deal with. Love the basketball, love the product, and, kept it in, hands it over in really good shape to a new board of directors. The president, Ty Masriou, is, now taking over as that face of the league and, hitting those press conferences. First time I think he made his appearance would have been the Saskatoon Mambas, not the Saskatchewan Rattlers. That's another big change for
we got to talk about that at some point.
We will. Well, that's the home opener, so I'm going to hold a little bit of that for the whole home opener for sure. But that was probably one of the bigger ones. New ownership there, same ownership of the Surge. We'll get into that next episode before the home opener when Saskatchewan opens doesn't open their season. Sorry, comes to Winnipeg. So Winnipeg opens their home season here on May 16th. But yeah, it's going to look a little different. Mike Morreale was definitely the face, but now this league goes in a new direction. I've already noticed some subtle differences. The basketballs look different this year in practice, which, I was like, didn't hit me at first until yesterday. I'm looking there and I'm like, oh, like that. Yeah, that's not the same CEBL ball that I'm used to seeing. They've also moved away from TSN now on CBC, which I think is going to be, it's good. It was good on TSN. I think the difference that I've already noticed with CBC is you're seeing a lot more social media activity, a lot more long form interviews especially in the East in Toronto where CBC headquarters is based. But, so far, I think it makes it a little bit more accessible. The games are on TSN Plus, which was subscription. I think a big benefit for the league here is that games are free, right? CBC Gem is where you can find all the games, and on YouTube. So if you don't have the CBC Gem app or you don't have the CEBL Plus app, you can go to YouTube and watch the games live there. I think it just makes the game more accessible. And, I always look back at some of our biggest sports, I wouldn't say moments, but what built the sports franchises in terms of tradition and I guess that sense of I don't know what I want to say real French. I can't really think of the word I'm trying to say here, but kind of gave it the tag of approval was when they started on CBC, right? Like I remember as a kid, CFL was on CBC that I'd watch at the cottage. Blue Jays used to play on CBC. The Raptors were on there too. It's a great avenue, I think, to really celebrate the Canadian side of sports and really tie it into Canadian culture. And as Canada's premier pro basketball league, they started on CBC years ago before going over to TSN. I think TSN served a great purpose in terms of just adding that legitimacy, that it is a real sports on a real sports network. But I like the idea of how much the league has grown. Going to here, I think there's a big opportunity for the league to carry that with CBC and maybe grab some more eyes that may not have been subscribed to the apps that were delivering the games primarily.
And the change that I'm most excited about on the league level is no more championship weekend. I mean, I'm glad we had it here last year, Joey. It was fun.
Great grand finale. Great grand finale.
Totally. And it was great for Winnipeg to kind of be the center of the Canadian basketball scene that week and stuff and make some connections and whatever. But at the end of the day, though, as a basketball fan, as a CEBL fan, I think the new format is just a lot more interesting. I don't want to see two teams playing in a different city, right? I mean, last year, Winnipeg, obviously the place would have been rocking if the Sea Bears were in the finals, but regardless of who was in the finals, you knew it was going to be a big turnout. But in years past, there's been these locations where their team didn't make it to the finals, and there's barely anyone in the stands. It just looks kind of lame, if I'm being honest, right? So that shouldn't be the case anymore. So that's a big win. And I mean, let's not forget just the awkwardness of being that host team and knowing
and just the pressure throughout the year.
Yeah, like last year wasn't really.
You're always talking about championship weekend.
Watching.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like you're losing. You're like, oh, you're losing. You're going to be in championship weekend. Like I don't think the players enjoyed that aspect either. I think it's an extra layer of pressure and that they just don't want to deal with. So I agree with you, and I think the other thing for people like you and I, the storylines, when you can make a series out of that championship weekend, right? The lower seed team gets one shot to get an advantage before going to the other city for the next 1 to 2 games. They have to close it out on the road. I think that's appropriate pressure for a team that's the lower seed. I think it's the huge benefit to win the top seed is to get that home advantage and to build that storyline from game 1 to game 2 to game 3. It's going to be a lot of fun to follow. Huge fan of that change for this year. I think it's right where the league needs to be, and it should be exciting for sure to see that going. Winnipeg opens this.
Joey.
Yeah,
sorry, Joey. I just wish that 90% of the teams in the CEBL were going to make the playoffs, like what the CFL is doing next year.
You want to go
that's
there?
That's the only change that I wish they also made. 90%.
Right.
Everyone gets in. Everyone gets a participation trophy. You get a playoff spot. You get a playoff spot. You get a playoff spot. We're Canada, right? We're very generous. We're very nice. So that was disappointing that they didn't follow in the CFL's footsteps.
Yeah, as big as the changes have been in the CEBL, I don't think it holds a candle to the CFL's changes over the last 365 days leading into the next 2 seasons. But a little harder to get in the playoffs for the CEBL, not quite as playoff friendly as the CFL for sure. All gets underway Saturday. Winnipeg opening the season on the road in Edmonton. That game is on CBC National. Their CBC on TV. So that'll be the first national game of the year out in Edmonton. And the Stingers, to kind of preview this game a little bit, bit of a rough offseason, I think, for the Stingers in the sense that of big names that were associated with Edmonton going to other teams, staying in the league. One of those names, Xavier Moon. I know Moon was doing some camps and things like that before signing with Winnipeg out in Edmonton. And then Sean East, the second. there's a guy who, the most outstanding player last year, had a tremendous season in Edmonton and popped in the CEBL, and went on to play just as well in the G League. Was in the G League. What is it called? The top prospects game for the NBA All-Star Weekend, or Rising Stars game for the NBA All-Star Weekend. So yeah, they're starting from scratch a little bit. And I don't know if you saw the post that the Stingers put out. It was a quote from Jordan Baker, the head coach of the Stingers, saying, grass isn't always greener on the other side, right? There's going to be a lot of faces coming into that building that once wore Stingers colors. And as we know, the Stingers organization is probably one of the more decorated and established organizations in the CEBL. Great fan base, championship, pedigree. They've got a couple of banners up there when you go into the Edmonton Expo Center. But it's and this has been a rivalry, Taylor, throughout the years. I know we always go to the Sask Winnipeg rivalry by nature, and there's the Battle of Alberta by nature, but I have to go ahead and say, I think from a rivalry standpoint, the Edmonton Winnipeg rivalry has really been the most entertaining through the first 3 seasons of Sea Bears basketball.
I would agree, but it's just a shame that Xavier Moon won't be there.
I know. I wish that game was a little later.
Return to Edmonton. That would have been.
I think they do play again in Edmonton later in the year, so hopefully he's back for that one. But yeah, it would have been like fireworks to have him, because I imagine it would be a quick cheer, off the top, maybe a little tribute video, and then it would be booed every time he touches the ball for sure. Knowing the Edmonton fan base, I think they would have a lot of fun with that one. Really disappointed he won't be there for the opener.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever happens in this opener, or honestly the opening week or 2, or even 3, if your team's killing it or struggling, I mean, don't plan the championship parade, and don't hit the panic button, because we see it every summer that the roster that you see right now for the Winnipeg Sea Bears and basically every other team in the league is going to change. There's going to be guys coming in, there's going to be guys coming out, and there's going to be guys who are on the couch right now deciding, actually, you know what, I'll spend half my summer playing basketball in Canada. And there's guys like Xavier Moon who got business to take care of currently in their other leagues. So yeah, I mean, day one, it's always exciting when this league starts, but I mean, you can never put too much stock into early CEBL games. And I'm sure the CBC doesn't appreciate me kind of hyping up the first game like that on national television.
All right, you're out. New host.
You're
not going to take that kind of bashing around here, Taylor Allen.
But it's true. It's true.
No, I know. The other thing, though, too, with Edmonton, though, is like, their roster, probably a little more turnover than we're used to. But, Nick Hornsby is, a guy that's been just integral with that team from going back to when Jordan Baker played, right? So they've got some of their main guys. But for me, the big one is Aaron Rooms. We talk about what Simon Hildebrandt did in Winnipeg. Aaron Rooms is the reigning U Sports Player of the Year, won a national championship with Toronto Metropolitan University, and is now embarking on his true pro career, as I like to say. He's no longer a college pro guy. He is a pro now, a true pro going in, starting his career. Tay Donald's another guy who's been, on the up and up these past couple of seasons. They've got some young guys that come back and are appreciating and seeing the benefits of the development, under the Stinger staff led by Jordan Baker. So the other thing about Edmonton is they can be streaky. We've seen it in years past where they'll win a bunch of games, lose a bunch of games, but then find themselves in the playoffs. Like, they tend to peak when it matters most. It might be a little different looking this year, but Edmonton is never a team that has ever been looked past or been able to look past. I think, excuse me, you can say that with Calgary at times, maybe been overlooked. Vancouver earlier on, for sure. They've built their own championship culture there as well. But, Edmonton's been the one very steady team in this league since its inception. Again, 2 championships. The only other team to do it, Niagara River Lions, defending back-to-back champions in the East. So I think that's going to be a real good game, and I think it's good to get a rivalry game off the hop on the road, national TV. I do think it gets the blood flowing, especially for these guys, as you mentioned, on both teams, but particularly the Sea Bears, that are going to see elevated roles right now, going to try to find their way on the team in a prominent role when, the Emmanuel Acott, or sorry, not Emmanuel Acott, when Xavier Moon comes back, the Nate Balamus, Isaiah Osborne, like, there's going to be decisions to be made. So here they have a great chance to showcase themselves on national TV, get some tape. Can't ask for a better situation to open the season.
So in true season opening podcast tradition, Joey, I mean, I'm pretty sure the last 3 years we've always made our kind of season prediction for the Sea Bears, predicted their record.
Yeah.
And I've been wildly off every year. I'm pretty sure. Year 1, I thought they were going to stink, and they were pretty good. And year 2, I thought they were going to be fantastic, and they were not. And I think last year I also kind of hyped them up quite a bit, and it didn't work out so well. So basically, whatever I say, that probably the opposite is going to happen. But I'll put you on the spot here, Joey. What's your prediction for the 2026 edition of the Winnipeg Sea Bears?
I think 15 wins is doable. It'll be hard. It's a very, I feel this is going to be a very a year of parity in the CEBL. There's been a lot of movement. Brampton in the East right now. Talk about Niagara. They're always a favorite, back-to-back champions, but Brampton might have a chance to go from worst to first here, right? They've, Jameer Nelson Jr., and they got Sean East there as well. Two of the better players from the West last year. I think there's not going to be a lot of gimmies this year. I'm going to go 15-9. 15-9. I'll lock it in. You?
Okay, that's a big year.
It's huge. Like I think it's like, yeah, it's not. I'm not looking at this like, oh, they'd scrape by. I mean, 15-9 would be a playoff team. Would be home court advantage somewhere in the playoffs. But I think we have to accept that there's going to be a lot of losses. And based on last year, there were a lot of home losses. So if that happens this year, it could be a lot worse. But I think worst case scenario for this team, but still works out, is 500. I think if they get to 12-12, you put yourself in a race. But if you can get those 3 extra wins, I think you'll be sitting pretty. But it's not going to be easy in a league, especially when you're playing in a conference with teams like Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver, particularly.
Yeah, if Xavier Moon was in the lineup on opening day, my answer would be a lot different. But I'm gonna go 12-12. And I still think they could finish the year wherever they want to finish it, or where they want to finish it, obviously. But I think with Xavier Moon missing quite a bit of time, this is a younger team, younger coaching staff. I think it might take a minute or two for everyone to get on the same page and kind of gel it and whatnot. But I think once they kind of knock some rust off and get some experience and get Xavier Moon acclimated, and him and Teddy got their roles figured out, I think this team can finish strong. But I think, I'm just going to go 12-12. I think that's kind of a safe bet for this year.
All right. I got 15-9. You got 12-12. And our first, we'll have a good feeling, or at least somewhat of a feeling, on Saturday. Game is 2:30 Central Time PM. On CBC. You can watch it on GEM, YouTube, or on CBC TV. The home opener is the next Saturday. I believe it's May 16th against the Saskatchewan Mumbas. We're going to dig into that next week. Remember, follow us on Instagram at Target Score Pod. You're Taylor Allen 31 on Instagram. I'm always nervous when I say your Instagram handle. At Taylor Allen 31. At Joey Slattery TV. Give us a follow. Stay up to date all year. I'll have your game day reports. Training camp reports are already out there if you haven't seen them. And keep an eye out for our expanded coverage. Some new shows coming to Target Score, turning into a bit of a network. Happy to have it coming out. We'll see you next Wednesday. Keep an eye out. Have subscriptions on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts for the next episode. Until then, enjoy the game Saturday in Edmonton. Sea Bears open the season. A new era begins. Can't wait. See you next time, Taylor.